I wonder if there's anything interesting. I'm in the mood to just relax after making an hour-long video on whether or not an Igglybuff could beat Pokemon Fire Red or not. Oh cool, it's The Lion King! You know, I've not watched this movie in forever. The Lion King is probably one of my favorite childhood Disney movies, if I'm gonna be honest. I can't wait to see what it's about.
Nah, we should go down this tunnel. Duh.
Did you just say duh to me?
No, I was just, singing. Duh, da, 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 yeah. Da, 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 da,
You
yeah.
do remember who you're talking to, don't you?
I know who you are. You're Simba. You're my best friend's dad.
I'm also the king.
So I think from the intro that you can tell that I have somewhat of a distaste for the Lion Guard. I'm going to be highlighting some of the issues in this video that I personally have with it, mainly because I'm kind of sick of seeing this in my recommended content just because I've watched some Lion King content as of late. Though, I think we should enlist the help of a certain member, and I think we know who it is being...
Why is the ceiling made of glass?
I don't know, I thought it'd make for a good skit entrance?
Anyways, Lion Guard. I know very little about the Lion King personally. I like the various scenes, but it's not something I'd go immediately watch. The various scenes of Simba and Scar, and just how boring it is.
And since it's kind of a mutual dislike here, I've decided to ask Dat Attack if he could swoop in and wouldn't mind helping me with this video.
I would have declined any other day if I wasn't doing a horrifying Zelda challenge.
Dat? Are you okay?
Please don't have a hit that takes 3 hearts!
While he's busy breaking down, let's get into the first problem about the Lion Guard. The first mention I would like to say is just regarding the supernatural elements within the show. In the original Lion King movie, the only moment that was like this was when Mufasa appeared as some sort of cloud ghost to Simba. Even then, it wasn't really a direct conversation, more like Mufasa just giving some advice, and his appearance being rather brief. While it did establish some supernatural elements, the implication was that it was incredibly limited on how they could manifest. That becomes even more apparent when we don't see anything like that within the sequel, The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, as well.
Yeah, the supernatural elements are odd in this. It reminds me of the Tangled, the series, but in that context, Tangled is already a magical setting. Rapunzel has healing powers with her hair. The only real supernatural element in Lion King, as mentioned, is Mufasa's spirit. The Lion King always felt more down to earth to me, too, as a casual viewer. So it's weird to see it used a lot in Lion Guard. Speaking of Mufasa's spirit, didn't the series kind of ruin the impact of that scene?
Oh, you mean this one?
Grandfather Mufasa?
Yes, Kion.
My dad is really upset with me. And I'm worried that I ruined his summit. I didn't mean to. It's just... I was so sure Maku wanted to ruin it.
And what has Maku done to make you think this?
Or this one?
Kion, something's troubling you.
Yes, Grandfather. And dry season has just started. And the guard's been busier than ever. It seems like everybody needs the Lion Guard's help.
Or maybe even this one?
Grandfather Mufasa?
I'm here, Kion.
How about the one where Simba treats this moment as it's normal to him?
So, Scar has returned.
I'm afraid so, Father.
It's my fault, Grandfather Mufasa. The roar...
The roar has the ability to do both good and evil.
Yeah, exactly what I mean. There's next to no impact to the original scene due to this. It's like how in Star Wars prequels, where they basically confirm literally every Jedi that dies can become a Force ghost. It steals from the impact of the original scene's magic.
Part of what made the Mufasa scene so impactful is that it reminded Simba of his past. I won't go too in depth on this, mainly because someone's already done a video like this beforehand, and I could probably do something like this when I'm talking about The Lion King on an off period, but Simba has 3 stages to him. His first starts as a carefree cub where he has no worries at all in the world, and that comes until tragedy strikes and he loses his father to a stampede. After that, he tries to put the past behind him by saying, "What happens just happens, you can't fix it, Hakuna Matata." But when the life he leaves behind catches up to him, he finally has to accept his responsibility and makes the recognition that you just can't run away from the past, which is what made that entire Mufasa scene so impactful and was the catalyst of this change. Heck, even other random lions can just pop in like anytime they want, not even kings of the past, like the show would imply. Like, what?!
Mom? Dad?
We're here, Ronnie.
How are you? I'm okay, but I need some advice.
So, in all these scenes already pretty much kill the impact of the original scene. Speaking of Simba's entire arc, isn't he kind of a douche here?
Douche probably might not be the best word to describe him, but I get what you mean. He's definitely out of character for a lot of these scenes, such as the one we showed earlier.
This kind of leads into my point. Just from clips alone I've seen of this series, it's weird. It's like it's trying to be a show for kids stage of noggin viewers, but then it shows crap like Scar leaping off a cliff to his death, and literally singing about his murder. So then it looks like it's trying to appease to an older crowd. It feels exactly like Star Wars Rebels, a show that was constantly debated by on threads for whether or not it's meant for kids or adults. This frankly makes me think Lion Guard lacks an identity and lacks an audience it's looking for. Does it want fans of The Lion King, or is it trying to be for kids? It's on Disney Junior, yet it feels like it's not meant to be on there at the same time. Here's an even better example. You see, there exists a Lion King series of sorts before The Lion Guard, called Timon and Pumbaa. Say what you want about that series if you liked it or not. I honestly don't even know what the general consensus for that series was, but at least I understood and knew the target demographic for the series.
I think this becomes more apparent when you look at the age of The Lion King as a whole. The 2 prominent movies for it debuted in 1994 and 1998 respectively, ignoring 1.5 of course because that's more of an oddity to the series. It really would not change it regardless though. Even with that, most of the people who have grew up with this series are mostly adults now, and while people who were adults might have introduced their children to these movies, it doesn't necessarily mean that it resonates with these children in the same type of way it did to these other children of the past. You can show someone The Lion King and they might think, oh, that's cool, but most people aren't really going to care about that and would prefer something live action, as that's something more dated. And you could even tell they want something more live action because, just to reaffirm this, Disney has been having a tidal wave of live action movies, coincidentally as well, including The Lion King, to meet this satisfaction. So to just end this off with what Dat Attack said, the show tries to appeal to a younger demographic and an older one while not doing it all that well. It really can't decide what it wants to identify as.
Yeah, and no offense to some of you out there, but your ships are breaching the Sonic fandom levels of shipping. I don't think the Circle of Life would be okay with a lion and a hyena playing the blues, if you get what I mean. Maybe it's the chemistry they have in the show, but shipping a lion and a hyena is just odd. Maybe this is supposed to be another progressive movement and I'm just lion hyena phobic. Please send your hate mail to Dat Attack 64 office.
And while the animal kingdom indeed likes to swing, other lions like Simba have to keep their pride in the Circle of Life. Speaking of the unnatural though, let's cover some supernatural aspects of the show. We've already just covered how practically anyone can come back as a spirit, and the clouds that you can just summon for guidance. Even someone like Scar can come back from death for some reason, despite literally staging a coup and laying waste to the entire Pride Lands. Let's talk about the Roar of Elders now.
Ah yes, the Roar of the Elders. From the clips I've seen, they just look like the usual plot convenience answer to anything. Have an intangible lava ghost trying to attack you? Just roar and a random rainstorm will come and disperse it. So imagine if you played Zelda, right? Now imagine if you had the Triforce right at the beginning and you can immediately make the wish and the Triforce is the only thing that can be used to solve every problem. You know what could fix the Roar of the Elders? If it was used in a far more strategic manner than it's actually used.
I can think of one scene that pretty much epitomizes the problem of the roar of the elders just to show why it's ridiculous. I think this would show to you as to why.
Aren't we worried he'll use that roar on us?
If he uses the roar against other lions, he'll lose it forever. And if he doesn't use the roar, well, he'll just lose. Either way, we win. Without the roar, Kion is harmless.
Go ahead, Kion. Use the roar. I can't. That's how Scar lost the roar. He used it against lions. That's not why he lost it. It was because he used it for evil. Remember Rafiki's paintings? Of course. You're right.
No, that's not true. I know the roar's powers. Listen to me, Kion.
Oh, I've listened to you, Zira. Now you listen to me. As long as I'm around, you're not welcome in the Pride Lands or the Outlands.
You wouldn't. We're lions.
Mom, wait for me!
The only thing you get from this is that Kion is vulnerable, yes, but that still isn't a good way to write the roar if we're going to clarify it. If you think of it like this, anytime Kion regains control of himself, or just has a friend around him to help him clear his mind, you already know the roar is going to be the sole thing that he's going to use to defeat these people. It's basically just a lazy way of writing the Lion Guard out of tough situations, rather than giving an actual thought into its usage. And Dat, would you mind giving some examples just to the people who are curious on how the roar could be used?
So the roar causing a storm cloud out of nowhere is pretty dumb. A better way to make this scene work is first make the roar of the Elder's power just be able to shake anything. With this, Kion needs to use his wits about the environment around him in order to shake things in order to win. So if the storm cloud, for example, what if instead he planned for it via assuming the day where the cloud is close to a rainstorm and used his roar to shake the cloud, causing the rain to fall? Yes, I'm aware of how clouds work, but this is a cartoon. There can be some leeway in logic. If the roar is used more as an ability that's only as good as the imagination of the user, then it worked well, I say.
With what Dat brings to the table, I think a character that would be similar to this, some of you might know, would be Joseph Joestar. Now we all know that a lot of Joseph's foes go down to Hamon energy, yes, but the way that it's interesting to see how his opponents go down is through how he applies it. Take his fight with NCDC, where he starts laying rope around their spiky battlefield to surprise and get the best of him. Instead of just using something that wins through sheer power, it'd be more interesting to have Kion use his wits as a way to get the best of his opponents, rather than the sheer power that was mentioned earlier. Now granted, the roar is probably always going to be something that's rather stupid as a power, because it's in a fictional universe where practically nothing else can match it, but it's a far better solution to keep it in so that the Lion Guard does have something unique to them. Otherwise, your only other option would be to do something that matches the roar in power, and let's be honest, that would make things a lot worse than what they already are and make so many characters irrelevant in power.
Okay, so I know we've already mentioned Scar, but like, seriously, he needs to be mentioned more. What did they do to him? His entire motivation for wanting to kill Mufasa is outright dumb.
Just to give some context about what Dat is saying.
The lion would cure the snake's venom as long as I did what he said. But I lost control and enraged. I roared and destroyed them instead. I expected to be praised near and far for stopping that treacherous thing. But Mufasa just nicknamed me Scar. Then I knew that he shouldn't be king.
This would probably be less annoying if they just went with the original motive of Scar rather than just him doing it for the fact that he got nicknamed Scar by his brother. Yes, you heard me right, that's his entire motivation that's implied by this scene. Again, there could be more understanding if the actual scene showed Mufasa downplaying this and just belittling everything that happened to Scar like it didn't matter to him. But it literally just comes off as Scar being called Scar, and that his whole motivation for killing his brother, trying to kill his nephew, and laying waste to all the Pride Lands was just this single moment. Granted, even when Kion got his Scar as well, he didn't get tipped to have such a mindset over little things. Handing it back to Dat though, we should probably talk about one of the biggest issues being just what Kion goes through that pretty much rips off the arc of another lion we all may know.
Alright, for the final thing we should bring up, let's talk about the inspiration, in quotes, of the Kovu and Kion arcs. I barely watched Lion King 2 and Jesus, even I can see the inspiration.
This is more of a problem in Season 3 of The Lion Guard, if anything, not Seasons 1 and 2. Just to refresh the memories of some people who haven't picked up The Lion King 2 Simba's Pride for a while, Kovu was Zira's youngest cub and the heir picked by Scar if he had perished. As Kovu had struggled to kill Simba and carry out the mission he was given, he had an identity crisis on whether or not he would live up to the expectations of Scar or be happy in the Pride Lands with his love, future mate, being Kiara, and to live with her family.
So what does Lion Guard do with this interesting subplot? Do it again and make it worse.
It adapts to having Kion having a similar arc to where Scar marks him with a scar, similar to how Kovu also gets one, mind you. From there, Kion thinks he's becoming Scar and deals with the issue of breaking out of this. It's not the exact same in concept, but the idea of the main protagonist having an issue with Scar and having a dilemma from it is the same. Even from their resolutions, it's literally the exact same thing where Kion marries up to a female of another pride who helped him overcome it. Rani and Kion's relationship parallels Kovu and Kiara's very lazily. It is not good writing at all.
While this kind of borrowed storytelling isn't anything new, I mean, look at some of the Zelda games, a lot of the Pokemon series, and Star Wars side stories, it's still incredibly lazy. We might as well just have Simba die in front of Kion, him talk to Simba's ghost and remark about how he doesn't think he's ready to be king. Hell, how about just a song called, "Oh, I'm just excited to be king"? This kind of storytelling is lazy and lacks originality, and again, it's done worse. What was the point of its inclusion if there's already exists a better expressed version? Now say what you will about The Lion King 2, but at least that story element was interesting. Overall for me, even as someone with no nostalgic tie-in to the original Lion King, Lion Guard is a mess. It lacks an identity of what the crowd it falls under. It lacks originality, and its core gimmick / power is just handled poorly. If I'd want to see a continuation of Lion King, I'd just watch Lion King 2.
So that pretty much sums up what we have to say about the Lion Guard in this video. I'd like to thank Dat Attack for coming on, my man. It was nice to collaborate with you and not be rambling by myself in this video, because we all know how that would go if that was the case.
No problem, and now it's time for me to shamelessly plug my channel. Hey, do you like a down-to-earth guy talking about whatever he wants on his channel? Then I think you like my content. I'm currently on a Zelda month, preparing for the Link's Awakening Switch remake to officially come out, but Ploz, I think we're missing something.
Of course we are. Duh.
Did you just say duh to me?
Outro.
I can make a promise. I can make a plan. I can make a difference. I can take a stand.
One more thing I'd like to mention that I did not get to mention in the video was regarding the songs. Now, I'm doing this mostly unscripted because, I didn't get to pull Dat Attack in for this. I really didn't want to bother him with re-recording this because we took several days to go between our times and our schedules to get this all done, so again, I didn't want to bother him or anything like that, so I'll just mostly remark what I'm going to say by myself, and that is that using a song to change the situation is not good writing. I think this character puts it best.
Just can it, won't ya? You can't just make everything better by singing some stupid song!
Yeah, you get what I mean. If a character believes something very strongly, you should not use a song as the main way to convince them that something is that way. The main instance I can think of is when Kion thinks that hyenas are kind of at the not understanding part of the food chain, that they're pretty much all greedy and that they're going for food and all that. And then you have someone like Jasiri come in who's basically telling him that, no, not all hyenas are like that. Some hyenas are like that, yes, but you cannot say all hyenas are like that. Now, granted, you could have something along the lines of, well, that's a racism message or a parallel to it, right? And while I do not have a problem with the message itself, you should not judge a book by its cover, I agree with that. It's the execution of Kion should probably doubt something like that first before he changes his mind. It's not good writing to have a character completely change their mind and just think that a character like a hyena is automatically good just because another hyena says, well, actually it's like this.
I pitted them against each other, but not until they set aside their differences did I see the true power they all shared deep inside. I see now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are.
All that really does is devalues Kion, actually. It makes it seem like anything that he thinks is just not set in concrete. So if he were to sit with Scar for like 2 minutes, then I guess he would become evil. Is that the implication that you get from that? Of course, the answer to that is obviously no. It should be pretty cut and clear that Kion would not become evil. But you get the point. It's very lazy and it doesn't do much. If Kion, like, actually doubted this and then they just started talking about it, and then Jasiri had mentioned this, sure, that would have been really good execution on their part. I would have agreed that that would have been a good way to have Kion change his view. However, with what they did with just Kion, like, conceding on what he had initially believed, and just completely siding with Jasiri's view from a song, that is rather dumb, especially since that song only lasted for 2 minutes. Let's take an example. So you take something like Hakuna Matata, right? Someone might say, oh well, Hakuna Matata was like a song that managed to convince Simba. Well, you have to also keep in mind that with Simba, it literally shows the progression of his entire life. So it's not like he entirely accepted it, like right away either, because it was more or less implied that he grew into this life, sure, after a long time of accepting it, but they raised him, and that's just how it went for Simba. Even then, he had recalled elements from the past of his life, and you get what I mean. There's a whole lot more thought put into a scene like that with a song versus Jasiri just saying, no, it's like this, and Kion being like, oh yeah, you're right, I was wrong, I'm so sorry. But yeah, those are my ending thoughts on this. I guess you can consider this a bit of an extra point for the people who stayed and like watched past the quote-unquote outro, even though it's kind of a false outro, I guess. This has been Plozible, and again, I would like to really much thank Dat Attack. His channel will be plugged in below in the description. If you like the video, I guess like it. If you want to subscribe, go ahead, man. That'd be pretty nice if you could. Or man, woman, you get what I mean. This has been Plozible out, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.
Just can't